Week 5 reactions, same format as the past week in terms of how we're doing the kind of the recaps now, just reacting to the games as opposed to recapping them. So, I mean, I can queue up my first one. It's from Thursday Night Football for anyone that follows me on, or I guess us on Twitter at Mondays Down South, which is really just me brain dumping on everyone on Twitter. But for anyone that hasn't figured that out yet, but Mac Jones should be starting at quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers over Brock Purdy. I don't even think it's close at this point. Obviously, it will not ever happen because money talks and you shouldn't lose your job because of an injury. But I think at this point, it is super clear that Mac Jones is the better quarterback for this team. I mean, they went to the Rams' house, which granted not a big home field advantage, without Ricky Pearsall, without Jawan Jennings, without obviously all the other guys that are already injured, and he went in and won that game, and Brock Purdy couldn't even beat the Jaguars at home with Pearsall and Jennings. This is a no-brainer for me as a starter. Mac Jones is, I guess, 3-0, and Brock Purdy is 1-1. He just looks amazing right now. He looks like a top 12 quarterback in the NFL the way he's playing with Kyle Shanahan. And I'll give you a double hot take. If Kyle Shanahan didn't get convinced to take Trey Lance over Mac Jones right now, the 49ers would have won a Super Bowl. There you go.
That is I'm debating whether I agree with you or not, but I still like that take. That's a good reminder of what happened in that draft. Good take out. I don't want to disrespect Brock Purdy. He has, for Mr. Irrelevant, he has been like well beyond expectations, but we're being reminded every year. I don't know what's going on, because if you think about, it's a great take, because if you look at the history of the NFL, when we were growing up, the amount of guys you would see who 5 years into their career would just be career backups was astronomically high. You would, like 95% of quarterbacks were that way. And we're in an era now where we're seeing all kinds of players, and maybe it's the way coaching has changed. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's because it's not the Manning, Brady, Rodgers, Breeze era where it's very got to make a bunch of audibles at the line. We're seeing a lot of guys have career rejuvenations, and for that reason, if you gave me this take a few years ago, Evan, I would think you're crazy. But I can't argue it, because Kyle Shanahan takes quarterback, and we almost won a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. So honestly, you might be right. And I will say one last thing. I do believe that if Mac Jones truly ends up being the better guy in the next couple weeks or whatever, one of the only coaches I think in the NFL who would do it would be Kyle Shanahan, because he cares more about winning, in my opinion, and beating Sean McVay than he does about, proving money right. So I think he might do it. Zach, go ahead.
I love it. Love the take. All right. My take is the Detroit Lions are so good that they can literally pick specific players that they want to have touchdowns based on specific events. So let me give you an example. David Montgomery is a Cincinnati local. He's an Ohio native, and he actually played quarterback in high school right outside Cincinnati. Well, when they came to Cincinnati last week and played, David Montgomery, it was his first time playing in Cincinnati, and his entire family that still lives in Ohio was able to attend the game. Really cool story with his, his sister being able to watch him play and watch him throw that touchdown pass, which was so iconic of him being a quarterback in high school. Unfortunately, his sister actually was in a car accident and was paralyzed. And so for her to be able to watch her brother live, not just run a touchdown in, but also throw a touchdown, the throwback to his quarterback days in Cincinnati in high school, was really, really iconic. But it also shows something even greater than just family heritage. It shows that Lions are so good, or the Cincinnati Bengals are so bad, that a team cannot, they literally have the ability to pick, okay, what player is going to score and how are they going to score, and let's draw up a package for them to score. If you're that fluid on offense to where you can pick and choose the play and the playmaker, then that means that you guys, your offense is riding off to the sunset. So hats off to the Detroit Lions and Cincinnati Bengals. Get your head out of the gutter. I mean, Zach Taylor, he's going to get fired this year. He has to.
I think that was a great, not just take, a great statement, Zach. That's a beautiful story too. I heard that earlier today, and I was really moved by that. And I think, and also props to them. Like that's such a this is why Dan Campbell is such a great coach, man. The way he empowers his own, it's really beautiful. So I don't know if Evan has any thoughts on it before I give mine.
No, agreed. The Lions are great. Zach, I do want your take from last week about how Jamison Williams doesn't help Amon-Ra St. Brown. I wish I could just pull up the All-22 tape, because after watching some of that game, Amon-Ra went like 8 for 100, and every single time they just send Jamison flying up the field, and he draws 2 defenders, and Amon-Ra sneaks over the middle of the field for like a 20-yard game. It's literally their whole offense. Now, they do actually need to throw the deep ball once in a while to keep teams honest, and it's not going to work as well against the Cincinnati Bengals, because the Lions, they looked okay. They looked okay in this one against a horrendous opponent, but...
I'm going to start with my homer takes, because I always give one every week. So I'm going to give you one right now, and this is a very bold take given how many great coaches are out there. I'm not using the word best to clarify, but I think Shane Steichen is top 5 most impactful coaches in the NFL. And here's why I say it. We're 4-1 now. And not only did we go 4-1, we absolutely decimated the Raiders in a game where, outside of the first drive of the game, at no point did they look like they even had a chance. And we put on a clinic offense, defense, and this is with them taking our kicker out for the year, where they had a roughing the kicker penalty and he's out for the year, right? So that's all been stated. Daniel Jones obviously has looked like a revelation this year after the struggles he had with the Giants, and even after getting paid. Brian Daboll, who I do still think has the potential to be a very good coach, but hasn't fully proven it yet, wasn't able to figure it out with them. And then here's the other point. And the reason I mentioned Shane Steichen specifically is it addresses a couple different games this week. I'm going to talk about Jalen Hurts. I love Jalen Hurts as a human being, and I do believe he is a great quarterback. My thing with Jalen Hurts, though, is I believe that at times the system that he has been in has definitely benefited him, and he has done the most with that system to the point where he's won Super Bowls. And I know I recognize they've only lost one game, and it was just this weekend to Denver Broncos, who I do believe are a good team, even though a lot of people have given up on them. They're at least above average, in my opinion. And they lost that game. But we've talked about Jalen Hurts being an MVP one time in his career, like a legitimate MVP candidate. And it was when Shane Steichen was his head coach, right? We talked about Justin Herbert having a 5,000-yard, 40-touchdown season. This was immediately after Shane Steichen coached him as an offense coordinator. When he was on the Eagles, he called the plays, not Nick Sirianni. And even though Sirianni gets all the credit for the tush push, I'd be inclined to believe that Steichen had a lot to do with building that broken play to start off with. And now he's on the Colts. And his first season with the Colts, he goes 9-8 with his rookie quarterback getting hurt immediately. With all the chips down, everyone getting hurt, he's one play away from making the playoffs. Last year, Anthony Richardson is talked about as being one of the worst draft picks ever, so on and so forth. And everyone acted like we were a 3-1 team. We're an 8-9 team. And this year, we come in, we hire Lua Anarumo. Steichen actually gets a quarterback that he feels like he can run his system with, even though I think AR still has potential down the road. And now we're 4-1. So I just want to give Steichen his flowers, because I think he has been given so much crap the last couple of years, even though he's, in my opinion, been as successful as he can be with the cards that he drew. And also, I mean, to be fair, he drafted AR. But I just want to give Steichen his flowers. So I'm leaving it at that.
Yeah, you lose me with the Eagles reference because they won a Super Bowl with Kellen Moore as the OC, but I'll respect Steichen for what he's doing this year. The team looks awesome.
I mean, they would have won. They would have won better if they had Steichen.
All right. I mean, I'm sure they probably would have won anyway, but I don't have much to say on that. The Colts look awesome.
Thank you.
Actually, I have a Colts one that wasn't even mentioned in size spiels, that Jonathan Taylor is the best running back in football. That's not some kind of hot take or anything like that, but he's kind of this year's Saquon Barkley, something I saw on Twitter this week, and I fully agree with him. I mean, the dude's just dominating behind the offensive line that's playing well. Not much really else to say. Again, it's not some kind of bold, crazy hot take, but that dude's playing on another level right now, and a big reason for their success.
I'm glad you said that, because sorry, Zach, that was my other take for the Colts that I almost gave. But my other thing that was funny was the Colts. The take wasn't even just that Jonathan Taylor was the best. like running back in football. I'm like, how did people forget about Jonathan Taylor? Was more my take, because it's not like we haven't seen him do this before, and he's in a good situation to do it again. So it wouldn't surprise me if he goes on to have a Saquon-esque season.
Shout out Salem, New Jersey. Sorry, Zach. Shout out Salem, New Jersey, home of Kevin Smick and Jonathan Taylor.
There we go.
Friend of the program. Smicky, not Jonathan Taylor, but
two celebs, man. Smick Lumber, and hey, Jonathan Taylor is running behind Lumber. I'm not sure if you guys saw on that right. It was like the right stretch play into the end zone where Quentin Nelson pulled the guard. I mean, it was if he's running at you, his poor corner on the sideline or on the right side of the field just completely took the brunt force of Quentin Nelson as Jonathan Taylor in for one of his 3 touchdowns that day. But I'll stay in the AFC South for my take. And you guys gave me a lot of crap for this last week, so I'm just going to double down on it right now, and I cannot wait to prove both of you guys right. The Houston Texans are a good football team. The Houston Texans are a good football team. And is the Ravens defense abysmal this year? Is Zach Orr going to get fired and replaced for Chuck Pagano? Absolutely. But let's not take away from how amazing the Houston Texans looked in that game. They have completely transformed their offense, knowing that their offensive line is not the best. They were running fast-paced play actions up and down the field all day long. CJ Stroud even did it on his legs, which is incredible. Woody Marks didn't have some remarkable game. CJ Stroud was accurate, did not have many incompletions. I mean, this offense is looking like a well-oiled machine, and that defense is the scariest defense in the league. That defense is the best defense in the league. They're top 3 in allowing the least amount of yards per game, and they are intimidating. If you guys look at what they did to Puka Nacua, they had him bleeding the first quarter just from hit sticks left and right all down the field. Their middle linebacker, Alice Shear, just an absolute stud. Their corners, Derek Stingley, and everybody, their safeties. I mean, these guys come for blood every game. They're getting better. They're on a 2-game win streak, and they are a freight train coming down the AFC South. So I do think the Colts are great. The Jacksonville Jaguars are playing as we speak, but do not forget about those Houston Texans. And you guys laugh about the Houston Texans, but CJ Stroud, I still believe in him. And I think that this team is going to be a playoff team.
I'll give you credit where credit's due about the Texans winning this game more handedly than I thought they would. But the flip side of that, though, Zach, is they've beaten the Tennessee Titans with a rookie quarterback, and they've beaten they beat the Baltimore Ravens, who were out literally their top 5 best defensive players, and arguably the best, if not a top 3 quarterback in the league by a lot of people's standards, an MVP. If you don't beat those teams, then what are you even doing here? To beat those teams is to be below, is to be average, right? You're beating arguably the worst teams in football right now. And so in order for me to give you real credit, I need to see you actually go out there and make a statement. Maybe they will, and at that point, I'll give you your flowers. And they won decidedly, so I'll give them credit for that. But so far, every team that they've played that's even marginally decent, they've lost to. And their defense has admittedly been very good for the most part, but their offense has only looked good against terrible defenses, in my opinion. So that's where I can't just be oh, you beat 2 of the worst teams in football, at least that's presently constructed, and I'm going to, crown you a 10-win team, right? So we'll see if that 10-win prediction comes to fruition.
Yeah, but Cy, that's not what you were saying before the game happened when we were trying to come up with a pick this week. You were like, the Ravens are still solid. They got Derrick Henry, they got some, this and that.
That's fair.
The other thing I'll make is they do have an elite defense. I actually think they're the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL right now. So I don't want to discount that. Look at their losses. Their losses are against the Rams, where they only allowed 14 points. Matthew Stafford's throwing for 500 yards a week on people, and they shut him out. The Buccaneers game, they blew. They easily should have won that, and the Buccaneers only have 1 loss on the year. They just beat Seattle in their place. Jaguars, jury's still out on the Jaguars, but they seem like a decent team as well. Granted, Houston did look terrible in that one, so that one I don't have a ton of excuses for, but it's definitely an incomplete right now. But I think that's a good take, and that I'll agree with you that we shouldn't forget about them. I'm not going to go out there and say that they're all of a sudden good, but definitely need to keep them in mind in the context of that.
It's a fair point about their losses, and also the fact that I did think the Ravens might hold their own, but it had less to do with me thinking the Ravens were great and more to do with the fact that I thought the Texans were even worse than they proved to be in terms of how good they were. So in that sense, Zach was 100% right. So I will give you that is true. We'll see what they do going forward. That's a fair argument. But I am glad you brought up the Ravens, because there's another team that has been riding the coattails of their Ravens victory from week one, and people have been giving them their flowers and acting like Josh Allen has surpassed Patrick Mahomes, and the Bills are this unbeatable team, and they might go undefeated, and who's going to beat them in the playoffs, and this and that. And all they've done the last couple of weeks is lose to the Patriots this weekend, which admittedly Drake May and the Patriots look good. And Evan, I'm sorry to bring this up because we all have draft picks that we regret not making, but Christian Gonzalez, Evan Forbes or Christian Gonzalez, are we kidding here? The guy comes back and that defense is literally like 10 times better the moment he steps foot on that field. So the Patriots are good. I'm not taking that away from them. But they just had a close game with the Saints the week prior. They had a close game with the Dolphins the week before that when you guys were saying the Dolphins weren't as good. I still don't think they're like a terrible team. I think they're a team that can give people a run for their money, as they proved in multiple occasions. But the Bills have not looked good outside of beating a Ravens team where they were down like multiple scores. And now even prior to Lamar getting hurt, we've seen the Ravens lose pretty handedly to a few different teams. And then also the only other team that they beat decidedly was the Jets. And the Jets have won no games so far and admittedly have lost to a lot of teams by a lot of points. So like if we're talking about this in context, I want to be fair. Admittedly, Josh Allen is still great, but the Bills as an overall team are not the juggernaut that people made them out to be early in the year. I think the issue is this happens every year. People want so badly for a new, like easy to love, like great quarterback and his team to go win. And because of that, the bias is heavy. But the reality is they look very beatable. And as of right now, I am not picking them to win the AFC.
Well, that's because you're going to pick the Chiefs anyway. But yeah, they don't look good right now. I agree.
Yes.
I don't disagree. They've looked pretty mediocre for the last 3 weeks, but I think it's just some early season kind of, I don't know, but I think they'll be fine.
Ev, what do you got?
Is it me? All right. You mentioned the Jets. I hate to be critical, but Aaron Glenn will be fired within 3 seasons as the New York Jets head coach. I was skeptical of him as a head coach to begin with, and this is just a disaster. I mean, you call out your team for a pathetic Monday night performance, just showing no physicality, no willingness to play in the football game against the Miami Dolphins, a team that, the Jets aren't good, but I feel like a team that they should probably beat with where the Dolphins are at right now. And you call out your team to show some effort the next week, and they come out and look even flatter than they did in that Monday Night Football game and just get absolutely boat raced in the first 3 quarters against the Cowboys, showed some life late. This looks like a disaster to me with the Jets and Aaron Glenn, and I really hope they get him replaced in the next few years, and I think this is going to be one of the shorter tenures of head coaches that we see. And my boy Justin Fields, I love Justin Fields, but it's over, my man. This is not a starting quarterback in the league. He just does not understand pass protection. Like, the Jets' offensive line was getting him killed off all game, but it's because he doesn't understand how to shift the protection to the pressure. Like, this guy just doesn't really understand the position, and that game was hard to watch. And yeah, I think the lack of discipline just screams Aaron Glenn as the coach. Obviously, it's very early into his tenure, but I do not like what I'm seeing from the Jets.
I don't know if Zach has a take on that. I'm not out on Glenn yet. I think he just picked up the reins as a team. They're makeshifting the quarterback position, and they're trying to figure out as they go. I would love to have seen their defense be a little bit better, but admittedly their defense didn't look that great last year, and he's basically trying to rebuild an entire franchise. The tough part for him, and where you might be right, is because he's a defensive coach, which defensive coaches just generally have shorter leashes because we tend to see a lot more big name offensive coaches. So there's that element. And then the other element is that he's in New York, and people just aren't patient in New York, especially when that team hasn't been good in a very long time and keeps switching people up. But I think it's a little bit unfair to Aaron Glenn. I do agree that it would have been nice to see his team fight a little bit more, but when you get dealt the bad hand and you're trying to figure it out, you deserve a little bit of time. And I'm not saying this is going to be the exact same scenario, but let's not forget Dan Campbell had the worst record in football his first year as a Lions head coach, and Aaron Glenn comes from the same coaching tree, and he's the same kind of person in terms of the way he riles people up. So let's see if he's got a little something in there before I give up on him.
we'll see. The penalties, the discipline, the effort, that's coaching. That's coaching for me. So I'm concerned. Obviously, I'm not firing him tomorrow. I'm giving him his time. But I'm just saying what I think is going to happen. Exactly.
Okay, so talk about discipline and coaching. The guy that I want to talk to was Jonathan Gannon for the Arizona Cardinals. What on earth are you doing? What is this team doing? And, I want to take this back to when Jonathan Gannon first got the coaching job. And there was a clip of him trying to motivate players, and they're all standing there his monotone voice. I would rather watch paint dry than listen to Jonathan Gannon give any type of inspirational speech. I knew this guy was bad off the jump. And can we talk about, who the Arizona Cardinals are? What is the face of the Arizona Cardinals? They are a subpar organization. They always have been, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Kyler Murray is not a leader. All right, they're making turnovers left and right from the Fritzy fumble Rusi that occurred that even put Tennessee back into the game. And then DeMercado just fumbling the ball and then Gannon going up to him and just like ripping him a new one and then chest bumping him and then apologizing to him afterwards. What is going on with this team? There is absolutely no discipline. And let's just call it like we see it. The Arizona Cardinals aren't going anywhere anytime soon. They never have been. And their head coach needs to get fired because they have no discipline whatsoever. This is the least disciplined football team in the NFL. This is the most overrated NFL team. And I don't even think it's close. I just don't know why everyone's covering for these Arizona Cardinals. They're terrible.
I want to tip the cap to Evan and myself because Evan, I won't tip the cap to Evan on the Cardinals being good a week ago but I will tip the cap on the Michael Carter, news that he has been paying attention to and got me a starting running back in a league and also in our league and maybe multiple. But he did say the Cardinals were good, and I did say the Cardinals are overrated, and I'm very happy that Zach is coming over to my side now. So welcome aboard. Now, granted, they play us this week, so we better win or else I'm going to get roasted after that. We'll figure that out and fix. Yep.
I think this is, similar to the Jets sack. It's like this week will show a lot about how they feel about Jonathan Gannon and what kind of pulse he has on that locker room. I totally did not agree with how he handled that DeMercado thing. Like, obviously, that's an egregious mistake that cost you a win you needed, cost you a win that you absolutely need to have. But like for a kid that I presume has worked so hard to work his way up the depth chart, he's been there a long time. Like he finally gets his shot. He just wants to celebrate it. And he makes a horrible mistake that is so impactful on his career and like the biggest moment of his career. Like, and he's like crying on the sideline. Like, don't make it any worse by having that public kind of lashing out, take him, afterwards, next week in meetings. That's where you like have the hard conversations. I didn't love that, how he handled that. But I think, obviously you're going to Indianapolis now, one of the better teams in the league right now. So it's going to show a lot with how they come back from that.
We're talking about two teams that just had back-to-back weeks of a guy on their team who's young, fumbling the ball before they enter the end zone. And we did not see our coaching staff do that to AD Mitchell. We ended up winning the next one. So we'll see what happens with this one.
Yeah, shout out Michael Carter, though. He got 2.5 yards per carry, but he churned his way to 10 fantasy points. That's my dog right there.
We will take it. The other thing I did want to mention, I don't know how much more time we got for takes, but it would be insane for us not to mention the Buccaneers Seattle game. And we have two teams that are going to be menaces in the NFC for the next couple of years. And I believe that either one of those teams will win a Super Bowl in the next 3 to 4 years at this rate. One of those two teams will. At the way they're going, with the way Baker and Sam Darnold look, we're talking about two guys that have shown you that reclamation project, so to speak, can work, and not just work, but work great. Shout out to Evan. His Sam Darnold take has aged beautifully. He looks so good, even with that interception or whatever, which was a bit unfortunate. It's always tough with tip balls, but even with that, he played an insane game. And then for Baker to be on the road against what I consider one of the better defenses in the NFL with Mike McDonald coaching him, doing what he's doing, and make a Igbukah, are you kidding me, bro? Like, we've had a lot of great Ohio State guys, and this guy just is really making you wonder if he's going to be better than some of them. It's crazy. But that game was one of the best probable games that's been played in years. I mean, maybe not defensively, but in terms of the competitiveness that they had, and you could see how bad both teams wanted it. And it genuinely would not surprise me if we see a Super Bowl out of one of these two teams, which nobody would have said coming into this year. Even as a fan of those teams, you probably would have had a hard time believing that, and they just look that good.
Yeah, any Sam Darnold haters that are left, if you don't think this guy's a top 12 quarterback in the league, pull up the Mondays Down South. All right, I'm done with it. Yeah, don't tempt me with a good time. All right, he's just awesome. I mean, come on. Anyone that's left out there that's not on the Sam Darnold train, come on the show. As Zach loves to invite random guests from TikTok and YouTube Shorts on the show. I'm doing it this time. Pull up right now. He's playing lights out, except for the fact that he did kind of cost him that game. But honestly, the defense needed to play better, man. Like, where was the Mike McDonald fierce new Legion of Boom defense, man? But tip the cap to Baker. And shout out also all the people on Twitter that were talking about Emeka Egbuka's terrible separation scores through 4 weeks, so that he goes out and torches the Seattle secondary. So that was a good.
People just love looking up random PFF stuff takes without watching the game. The guy is a dog. Have you seen? The guy doesn't need separation because he catches everything that is within any radius of him. When you're that good at catching, especially when you play out of the slot, what are people talking about? He's not running deep routes. Like, I'm tired of people just making takes without watching football, bro.
And he ran that one like sluggo for that long touchdown, and he sent the guy out of the frame. Like, give me the separation score on that. The guy wasn't even in view with that cut he made.
The zip those two guys have too, Baker and Darnold, like, it shows why they were number one overall picks. It's the same thing that like you see with golf sometimes, where when they put sauce on that ball, it flies. Like, obviously we know Josh Allen and those guys are the elite gunslingers, but some of these guys don't get enough love for how hard they can throw that damn football, bro. It's crazy how like fast it gets in that receiver's hands.
That's true, man. Hey, shout out to my cousin Mike Penny for declining my trade to send Egbuka and JSN for James Cook, and he rejected it. And I will not be sending you that trade. When you send that trade back to me this week, I will not be accepting it. So that's what you get, man. That's what you get. You're lucky.
He has James Cook?
He is James Cook.
He turned that
and
down.
I tried to trade him Emeka Egbuka and JSN, and he declined.
Zach, you would have made the worst trade in fantasy football that I've seen in a decade if he accepted that.
So let me explain. I have Jordan Addison and I have Tedero McMillan. So I was willing to take a back step, and I have Xavier Worthy. So I would have had to start 2 or 3 of those guys because I have Bucky Irving, Christian McCaffrey, and I would have gotten James Cook. So I was willing to ship a couple of wide receivers off. Then when I got Jordan Addison, who's been balling, by the way, 2 touchdowns. I know he likes to explore London, all right, but he's coming back to Minnesota, so I don't expect any bad behavior anymore. But that was kind of the driver behind it, was having 3 staple running backs, McCaffrey, Bucky Irving once he comes back healthy, James Cook, and then having 2 really good wide receivers, just shipping off 2 great ones.
Well, I see your point, especially if you did it early in the year, but the reason you probably would have regretted later on, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm willing to bet both of those guys are top 5 fantasy receivers right now in terms of numbers. They've been consistently dominant, so that's where I think it works out in your benefit. I'm glad the trade didn't happen because, dude, you could eat with that team. You're gonna win the league, bro. That's a nasty team. I'm glad you didn't trade those. You should be trading those other guys because those 2 can carry you to a ship, bro. And also,
problem is mine. Yeah.
Both OSU guys. OSU slot receivers, bro. Don't sleep on them, bro. They're good.
I have a good prompt here. Just quickly, I don't want to go too long while from a timing perspective, but we were talking about wide receivers the last few weeks and like top 5, whatever. I think the top 5 is pretty clear now in whatever order you want, with Jetta, Chase, even without a quarterback, Nakua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and CeeDee Lamb. Who's your 6th? Mm-hmm. Who would be your 6th best receiver in football right now?
This is going to be such strong recency bias, but I kind of want to say it.
I know what you're going to say. That's why I was excited to bring it up.
What do you think I'm going to say?
I'll say it first. I don't want to ruin it.
All right. You love Darnold. I love JSN. I'm going Jackson Smith and Jigga, bro. The guy is unguardable. It is a hot take because he's young in his career, but year 2 and the way he finished out the year last year, like, for them to trade away DK, for Tyler Lockett to leave and they're passing him to be better than it's been the last couple of years, it shows why JSN's a true number 1 even coming out of a slot. And it's not that different than the impact Amon-Ra St. Brown had on the Lions when he came over. And he's doing it without Jameson Williams to open up the back half. Although, shout out Torrey Horton, pretty good young rookie over there, so I think he deserves a credit. But yeah, no, it's JSN for me.
Zach, do you have one? I know I caught you off guard.
I do.
Whereas I had I went through the whole league to do this. So what do you got?
I mean, excluding like Devontae because of what he's done. Like if I'm just talking this year
Right now.
forward, George Pickens, baby. George Pickens. Did you see what he did against Sauce Gardner? It was like Sauce Gardner was like just any other corner. George Pickens is one of the most dangerous wide receivers in the league. You cannot ignore his talent and what he's been doing with Dak Prescott the last couple of weeks. Give me George Pickens as a nice little throwback there.
I don't hate it, and that's why I love this prompt, because I think you could go so many different directions. Like I don't know what prompted me to think about this, but for me, I think JSN's a great answer. I'm going Ohio State as well. Garrett Wilson, gentlemen,
Yes,
his talent is on the level of a lot of these guys, and he's already set such a floor. And his durability, he's always on the field. He's never hurt. They were losing by 40 yesterday, and he was still playing every snap, playing 100%. I love this guy, man. I think he kind of got forgotten about, but he's elite.
That's a really good point. Yeah, no, like you said, you teed me up without me like being ready for the prompt. So Jason's got the bias of how good he's been. But dude, it's for the Jets to be as bad as they've been the last couple of years, and Garrett Wilson to still be able to like show up and show out with the quarterback play that he's had around him is insane. This year, even when Justin Fields was hurt, he was cooking. Like, you got to give credit where credit's due. He is really good. I would love to see him with like a legit quarterback one day and see how high he can shine. But no, that's fair. I know Zach's.
It sounds like Terry McLaurin from years ago, right? Like it was the excuse of he hasn't had a good quarterback, but he's still putting up 1,000-yard years. So now that Terry McLaurin does have a good quarterback, has he ever sniffed the top 5 wide receiver? No.
Last year he was pretty close to a top 10 receiver. Yeah.
He was. I mean, Garrett Wilson would never be a top 5 wide receiver in my opinion, even if he had a good quarterback. And I think that's why I'm using Terry McLaurin as that gauge.
I actually think that, and this is no knock against Terry, because I think Terry's floor is very high given his ability to get that deep play going. I think Garrett Wilson's the better receiver, though, even coming out of the draft. And Wilson can do a little bit of everything. He's your receptions guy. When the problem is he just never had a quarterback that could pepper him with good catchable balls consistently, because Garrett Wilson can do what Puka Nacua is doing in terms of like catching those intermediate balls consistently if you put the ball in his window. We've seen a couple of games where Rodgers actually had a good game and did that. So I do think his ceiling could be top 5. It's just like, look at the quarterbacks he's played with, bro. Mike White, washed Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields. Like, I can't think of anyone who's played with who's even like top 15, not even top 20, actually. I can't. The guy has had a crappy situation on offense his entire career and has done something with that. So you got to give him credit. But hey, we won't know, I guess, until we see him.
He's just so unbelievably talented. Like, some of the catches he makes are, it reminds me of Malik Neighbors in a lot of ways. But he does have the Terry McLaurin kind of like shtick. But I think we're starting to see this year, even with a bad quarterback, like the level of upside this guy has, because there's no other people to throw to in that offense. So I got one last big take, unless you guys got anywhere to go.
Go ahead. All you.
We're making a bit. I know I haven't really been publishing the quarterback rankings. Unfortunately, I need to get back to that. But we're making a big addition into the top 8. A new franchise quarterback has made the list. Drake May is a bona fide top 8 franchise quarterback in this league. I said going into that game, I thought the Patriots might pull out a win, and this was going to be a statement moment for Drake May in his career, and he did exactly that. This guy has everything you would want in a franchise quarterback, and I know the Josh Allen comparison is kind of lazy, and people have done it, but like, how do you not see Josh Allen when you watch them play, especially on the same field? They're literally clones of each other. Drake's maybe a slightly poor man's version, but yeah, I'm moving this guy. I don't see how you have 8 quarterbacks in the league that you're starting up your franchise with before Drake May at this point. He looks awesome. The Patriots look like a potential playoff team, and he's still the number 2 quarterback from that draft class. Don't get me wrong, but
I was just about to put you on the spot. I was like, where are we seeing long-term trajectory here? But no, go ahead, Zach.
I love Drake May, though.
I love it. I love the take, Ev. I love the take. Zach?
The only thing I'm curious about, to be clear, you guys know I say this because I love most young quarterbacks, so I guess it's probably like, hearing the same thing from me all the time. But I love Drake May, and I was very happy to see him, get drafted as high as he did and get that season or half a season to figure it out, because I do believe in him, and I do believe that he will, and he's showing it now. Like, I do believe we will talk about him as, he already is a franchise quarterback. I think we can say that now. Like, now that we've seen about a year of him playing technically in games, and he's had some big ones, I think he's becoming a franchise quarterback. The only question for you, Evan, though, is I know the Bills one was massive, and I believe that his momentum will pick up. Do you have him over, at least as presently constructed, Sam Darnold and Jared Goff, and like, where do you have Baker? Like, I'm curious to see where in that who's in that range for you, because I can't, as good as he's playing right now, I can't put him over Darnold yet. Like, I believe he will be better than Darnold, but the season Darnold's having, I can't do that.
So the context of my rankings, refresher for the viewers, is like it factors in age, contract, all this kind of stuff. So the fact that he's like 24, he's still on his rookie deal, puts him in terms of, it's like how valuable is the asset in a way. So for me, now that I've seen him go on the road and beat a Super Bowl contender, like, I can believe that he's the kind of guy that can win me a Super Bowl. And because he's in his second year on his rookie deal, like, so young, from a valuable asset standpoint, that's why he's above those guys, because those guys are older veterans, more expensive, although they're both on very good deals. So I think Darnold and Baker, I think is like, he's like in that second, he's at the top of that second tier of, I call them veteran gunslingers, with Matthew Stafford, who I know if I have the team around him can win me a Super Bowl tomorrow. We've seen it. We know he can still do it. And then Baker's right behind him, like Jared Goff's in there. And then Darnold's creeping into that group as well. But my franchise guys are like the young, just like slam dunk, like face of the franchise, long-term contract guys.
I was curious to see where you have Jaden and Herbert relatively. And the reason I bring that up is you deserve your flowers for this week, Evan. And I can't believe we haven't given them to you. That was a heck of a victory by the Commanders to go to LA and beat, again, not a great home field advantage, but still to beat them in their house convincingly. The fact they started off the game 10-0 and y'all ended up winning 20-10, it goes to show. I mean, clearly they were decimated on offense, but at least on the line and everything. But that's not an excuse. You guys went and took their lunch money. So I want to know where you have Jaden and Herbert, because I'm curious to see, like, especially after the first couple of weeks, where they line up.
Yeah, I think I actually had probably switched it after the first few weeks to move Herbert above him, just with the injury, which is always going to be a concern for Jaden with his frame, and also, kind of having some rough games to start the year. But after seeing him on the same field again, I'm putting Jaden back above Herbert. I mean, again, like Herbert, like, we love that he's 6'6", cannon for an arm, like some of the seasons he pulled up, but he's a 500 career starter. Like, he's always been in a relatively decent situation. It has been amazing. I'm moving Jaden back above him, especially after yesterday where he outplayed him. But shout out the Commanders defense. They made some scheme changes and got some pressure, and the Chargers look rough right now. But yeah, huge defensive performance, and good to have Jaden back. And Bill is unbelievable.
Bill, yes. Shout out Bill. I held on to him all this time in fantasy. I'm so happy. Play him.
I didn't check today, but going into this week, and I assume it only got better after his play, he was the number 1 graded running back on PFF, which is crazy.
I'm not surprised.
He's been unbelievable.
All he needed was Jaden, bro. He just needed those running holes to open up, and they did, and he fully took advantage of that. And they're playing him more, so clearly they trust him as a blocker more too. So good win, bro.